Hey everyone, welcome back. This week's video, I want to take you through my background as a cyclist and ultimately what got me into racing. It started really in 2009 when I bought my first road bike, a Le Mans Nevada City entry-level bike. Rode that bike for thousands of miles, but really as a hobbyist cyclist, right? I didn't have any data. In fact, when I bought the bike, I didn't even have a kit or shoes for a bike. All of that kind of came over the years. In 2013, my family and I moved to Cleveland, Ohio, and my neighbor at the time was an avid cyclist who also worked at a local bike shop. And so he and I started riding a lot together. He introduced me to a lot of people in the local area that rode, but he also pushed me to get a new bike. And so in 2015, I upgraded my bike and got into a BMC SLR02 Team Machine. Absolutely loved that bike, and it was a huge upgrade right from my entry level bike. Started using Strava to track my rides, share my rides. Started to learn a little bit about the cycling community too. I'm not a very social person. My neighbor was a very social person, and so he kind of helped me get into some of these local community rides. In fact, I joined my first group, the Lake Erie Wheelers, in 2015, and I'll be honest, I was pretty scared to ride in a group. I'd never done a pace line before. I wasn't sure I had enough fitness to go the speeds that they were going. But it turned out to just be a tremendous group of people. The rides were a ton of fun. Really got to learn some basic pack dynamics in a local group. 2016, I started to do something that I'd never done before, and that's kind of ride all year round. Now, where I live, the weather in the winter and in the fall is pretty bad, and so I had a wheel-on CycleOps trainer, but I didn't have any training platform. And so I started to use TrainerRoad and I started to use Zwift. Now, not really from a structure perspective, but just as something to do. In 2017, a couple of guys that I was riding a lot with started to really encourage me to go and compete at a couple of local races. There were two different local series, and they really thought I would do well if I tried. And so I tried my first training criterium at the Westlake. They had an A race and a B race. I was in the B race. I was terrified, as always, right? I had no idea what to expect. I'd never been in a race like this before. But man, I just loved it. It was so much fun to go fast in a pack. And I didn't know anything about what I was doing, but I was just riding as hard as I could. And so I had a ton of fun, but I only did that one that year. 2018, I started to play with some structured training, right? I started to use TrainerRoad a little bit more consistently, more of a low volume to mid volume training plan, but I started to use it consistently. I started to use it year round, and I started racing a little bit more regularly. So I'm going to share on the screen here some kind of data that shows the yearly progression, both in terms of distance ridden, but also number of races. But in 2018, I started off as a Category 5 cyclist, which is a novice. And I was learning how to race. Ohio has a really wonderful spring series called Rattle. It's a 4-week series, and I've started to attend some Rattle races. Now, racing in the Category 4 or 5 field, I was surprised because I couldn't really do anything. I had no results. I wasn't top 10. I was barely top 15. And I was really surprised. I was having a ton of fun, but I was surprised that I wasn't able to do better. I was focused a lot, the balance of that year, just on group rides and enjoying riding. But all year, I kind of had this burning desire that I wanted to race more. So in 2019, I kind of set out on a mission really to race more. And I joined my first team. I joined the local bicycle shop team called Team Spin. And it was interesting. They had a minimum expectation of 10 rides on the team. And that seemed daunting to me. So at Rattle, I doubled up. I would race the Category 4 or 5, and then I would race the Masters a couple of hours later. And even though I still wasn't getting any kind of results, I was having a lot of fun. But when I would double up, I'd get dropped in the Masters event, the second event. I'd get dropped about halfway through. I just didn't have the fitness that I thought I had. But I competed in all of them. I had a ton of fun. I was now racing with people and getting to know people who were sharing race tips. And I was just gaining experience that I didn't know at the time I was gaining. Later that year, I took another criterium in Ashland, Ohio. and it was a 5-person podium. I finished 4th in that race, and so it was the first time I ever had a podium picture taken, and it felt really good, and it further cemented the idea that I really liked racing, specifically criteriums. I upgraded my category that year from a category 5 to a category 4, which is really just based on the number of races you have. 2020, I was fully committed. It was a whole new level of commitment for me. I had 100% dedication to my structured training with TrainerRoad. I moved up to a high volume training plan, and I had a full calendar mapped out until COVID hit and canceled all racing. Now, at the time, I was really disappointed about that because I wanted to race. I wanted to race and I was ready to be competitive. But because it got canceled, it actually benefited me because now I had a whole year of dedicated training. There were no group rides because of COVID. There were a few solo rides that I would do outside, but for the most part, I focused intensely on building fitness. In 2021, I joined a new team, Team ETP Cycling, and was ready to race. Fitness was very high coming off of 2020, doing nothing but training. And I had a pretty heavy calendar planned. I had 25 races planned. That year I had a mixed calendar, meaning I raced some with our category team and I raced some with our masters team. I got an early category upgrade to a category 3 due to some early season results. And then just a ton of experience with both really mainly staying in regional racing. 2 memorable moments. First was a 3rd place finish at the Whiskey City Criterium in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. The reason that was so memorable is the 2 people I shared the podium with are both national champions in different disciplines, and so that was pretty incredible. And then the next day I took 1st at the Schoolyard Rumble, which also happened to be the category Masters age group state championship. So that year I won the state championships in my age group for Ohio, which was fun. I also transitioned away from TrainerRoad and went with a full-time coach, Luke Chronister, at Elite Training Performance for all of my structured training, both on and off the bike, and made a huge difference over the last 18 months. 2022, I've already done a little bit of a recap on 2022 in a different video, but here's some summary of it. 41 races. It was a massive volume of racing. 2 wins, 6 podiums. Most importantly, those stepped up to a national level. Raced national events like Armed Forces, Intelligentsia, Gateway Cup, Toad, U.S. Nationals, and then my favorite race of the year was Tulsa Tough. Racing against the very best in my age group in the nation was the most fun I've ever had on a bike, and just cemented the fact that that's what I want to be doing for as many years as I can. I became 100% focused on masters racing last year and will continue to do that moving forward. And I had one speed bump in the middle of the year. I did get COVID in the middle of the summer, so in the middle of all of those races, I was kind of down and out for about 8 days. 2023, goals are set. I want to compete and I want to win at the highest level. Ultimately, I want to show up to every single event prepared to be at my very best, and I believe that if I do that, then it's going to be a very good year for me. I also want to share some of this excitement that I've got for racing and cycling with some of the newer members on our team, some of the younger category guys that are coming up on our team. Already this year, I've registered for 23 events with a total of 40 total targeted for the year. Now, I've talked a lot about criterium racing because that's what I prefer. I know there are road races and time trials. I like criteriums. I love them because they're fast, they're aggressive, they're physically and mentally challenging. And then there are some courses that are pretty technical and some that are pretty non-technical. I prefer the technical courses. They seem to suit me a little bit better. I do want to take 1 second here and just thank all of our team and my individual sponsors. You know, when you think about the journey that I just shared, it's pretty, I'm sure, common for a lot of folks, but it's been a short period of time that I've actually been racing. And so for me to be on a team that has the great sponsors and support that we have, and for a few of my individual sponsors that have come on to help me this year, and hopefully years to come, it's just wonderful to see. You know, this is an incredible sport. There's a huge opportunity for us to make a difference in this sport, and for those folks that are helping us do that, I just really appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in as always. If you want to be a part of this journey, subscribe to the channel, give me a like on this video, shoot some comments in below. I'll be happy to answer any questions, comments, and if you have an idea for a future video, let me know. Racing starts in 4 weeks. I will be putting all my racing footage out there for everybody to see this year. So thank you very much. And as always, get out there and ride Moss.